MG-42, obviously. We are going to go over, I've been meaning to do this video for a while, guys. Installation and use of our 7.62x39 kits. It's pretty easy. We do have a set of instructions that come with it. We've deleted any of the verbiage in that manual that has to do with the orifice plugs. We only did that on our very first batch of these. There's less than 50 of those kits out there, so we just eliminated that verbiage because we kept getting emails and people calling us and, well, how do I know if I have plugs or not? We just went to a fixed pressure instead of adjustable pressure. Nobody was using the plugs anyway, to our knowledge, really. So that's done with. No more of that. We're going to go over how to properly install your toilet plunger. Yeah, we know it's large, but it functions. So it's kind of one of those catch-22s. It's not World War II looking, but you're shooting cheaper ammo. So there's that. These kits typically will run with any booster nozzle because all the pressure is done pretty much here. You can find them to be too overgassed, and you can go to a different size booster nozzle to bring that gas pressure down. But the method we use to port these to bring the pressure down, it gets you a full auto gun, gets your cyclic rate from the 900 to 1,000 RPM range. So typically, if you overgas that, it's just going to up the cyclic rate. The cyclic rate, and not actually damage your gun. I have ran. This is a transferable, but I ran our postie gun at 1900 RPM, I think it was, with one of these with no ports. I broke the bolt. I broke some of the welds. What else? I cracked the buffer, a couple different things. Guns are not meant to run that hard that fast, so that's something to watch with these. But you should be running in a full auto gun somewhere in the 900 to 1,000 RPM when you get this thing dialed in. So there's that. Currently, as I said a minute ago, this is a transferable, an FG MG-42, wearing the 8mm stuff. So let's show you real quick. This actually has a converted feed tray. You can see the spacer here. That's what that guy is. I'll take it out and show you here in just a second. This gun is set up in 308. You can see that tray spacer there. So the 7.62x39 kit is going to come with a modified feed tray. You shouldn't need any other modifications to your feed tray. Should just sit right on your gun, ready to rock and roll. This particular system uses a 308 tray, so you need a 308 top cover. And we're going to go over how to tune your top cover real quick. It's really easy. Some guns will tune or run it right out of the box. Some guns, you just got to tweak the feed arm on your top cover. Your feed arm here. And what that arm does is it actually pushes on the back side of the rounds as it's coming out of the belt and heading into the chamber, so that it'll adjust where the nose of that round actually goes as it flies into the chamber. With the shorter round, it's a much shorter round than the 8mm. It actually jumps out of the belt and free airs from the belt into the chamber, whereas the longer rounds actually feed kind of basically right out of the belt into the chamber. The 7.62x39 makes a jump. It jumps. So that's why you got to tweak that top cover a little bit. Like I said, we'll go over that here in a minute. Feed tray just goes right on. There's nothing real complex about that. I have not tuned this gun yet, so we're doing this the first time. This is actually a gun we repaired a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now. He asked us to just hold on to the gun because he wanted a 7.62x39 kit. So that's what we're doing. Obviously, just 308 stuff. Like I said, the feed trays are modified. It will not like to run 308 in this afterwards because of the modifications we do. It actually makes the feed system clamp harder on the smaller round. That way it feeds properly. When you try to put a 308 in there, it's larger, so you end up with a lot of drag in your system. FYI. The top covers though, back and forth, you shouldn't have any issues there. It's just tweaking this arm with a pair of pliers. I do it inside the gun, just like it's sitting right here. The only time you gotta do it though, and we'll show you in a minute, is when the rounds don't feed properly. So let's finish putting the front end on this thing real quick, and then we'll come back. I've got 4 rounds that are snap caps for demonstrative purposes. Let's put the booster system on. So this is a 3-piece booster. There's a little latch right here on the side. That latch. You got your end cap, which has been ported. You have your piston assembly inside here. So your gas pushes on this piston assembly. And that's what cycles their bolt. This pushes directly against the barrel bearing and cycles the action. That's kind of how these things work. Just a big piston in there. Then you got your base. So let me show you what not to do, and then I'm going to show you what to do. What you don't want to do is take just this and just slam it all the way on there, and then slam that all the way on there. That's no bueno. You can take this, put it on just like we did. Snug, don't go torquing it on there. You're going to have a hell of a time getting it back off. You just basically go until it stops. See, I just got 2 fingers on it until it stops. Let your arm go. See how it kind of wobbles a little bit? Not really wobbles, but back and forth. There is play there, so it's not super duper tight on there. Your arm is what actually keeps that from coming back off. So next, you're going to want to take your piston. It just slides right inside. You saw me take it out. It goes right back in just as easy. Slides right in the end there. It is a tight fit because of the gas seal, basically. All right. So what I've got here is the pistons in there. And if I push on the piston, well, I say if I push on the piston, there it goes. I heard it. Yeah. Push on the piston. It cycles that barrel. You can test that to make sure it's functional. But this is where you don't just want to slam it on. If you just slam this thing home, and you will have issues. You will have big issues, and there are warnings all about it in that manual I talked about a minute ago. This goes on here. Let's get it on. All of these instructions are in this manual. So this, I've got it started on there. It's not slammed all the way home. You're gonna want to put your finger on the barrel. Spin this bad boy until you feel some resistance, and you'll actually feel this end cap is pushing on the cup inside that piston cup inside, and it will actually push the barrel to the rear if you slam this thing all the way on here. Which, what does that do? That unlocks your bolts. Yeah. So there's no way for your bolt to fully lock at this moment, which is a dangerous situation. Don't do it. There are many warnings about it. So what you want to do is back this guy off. I can feel the barrel sliding back forward. Now it's loose. Go until you feel it barely, kind of like we did here when we installed the main body onto the nose there. Okay, now there's a little bit of resistance. Now what you want to do is back it off to the next notch. And what do I mean by the next notch? Let's drop it on the floor, don't we? The latch we showed you earlier engages in these notches here, all the way around. So again, get on there, lock it whole until you feel resistance. As soon as you feel resistance, that is this end cap pushing on the piston assembly, unlocking the barrel. So it's bad juju if you leave it that way. Back this off to the next notch and latch it. Now that assembly is all in place, that assembly is correct. There's a little bit of play in all of the system here, so nothing is absolutely tight up against each other. We know what happens when things heat up, especially in engines. Like I said, the tolerance inside this thing is pretty tight because it is a piston. So as things heat up, it's going to expand a little bit. So if you crank this stuff on there, you're going to have one heck of a time getting it off. At any rate, let's see if this guy wants to actually cycle. It already has the 760x39 barrel in it, but for demonstrative purposes here, that's how easy it is to change a barrel. So you would take your 308 or 8mm barrel out, the whole barrel assembly, swap it with the 760x39. If you have multiple barrels, your barrels are going to be stamped with a letter or a number combination, and that's just for us on our end because we're doing 15 to 20 of these at a time in the park rising setup and all that stuff. So we stamp the barrels to each individual kit. So if you see these extra stamps on your barrel, that's all it is. At any rate, your barrel goes right in. Bada bing, bada boom. So we have this guy in place, set up like it should be. Again, instructions are in the manual. Please read it. It will save your gun. It will save you some headaches too. So now we're going to load a couple of those snap cap dummies in a belt. So I'll show you how to load a belt and how to pinch and make sure that your belts are good. Let's find one over here. There's a pile of belts. You saw I just randomly grabbed the belt. I only have 4 snap caps, but see how loose that one was? I mean, it almost falls out of there. It is engaging in the extractor rim here, but that one's very loose. Typically what ends up happening if they're too loose, these belts flip and flop and do all kinds of crazy stuff under full auto fire. These rounds will just fall out. So you'll get a stoppage. That's typically what will happen. That one's loose, that one's loose. All these are pretty loose, which means this belt is well used. So rather than having to pinch every individual cell on that belt, I'll just grab a different one. We'll find one that's nice and tight out of this pile over here. See if this one's any better. That one's even worse, or at least that pocket is. Nope, nope, okay. Let's find another one. There we go, that one's a little bit better. Some of these belts are extremely tight with the 8mm and 308, so they work pretty daggone good for the 76239. This is a standard belt. You just saw me pick it out of the pile over here. This is not a RPD belt. This is your standard MG-34, MG-42, MG-3 style belt. 7.62 by 39 snap cap. That wasn't bad. You heard it snap. I can give it a little tug and it's secure. That one, not terrible. Again, it's all by feel here, guys. I mean, it's kind of I've shot enough of this stuff to know. If you come across, like this belt, most of these are probably gonna be fine. But if you come across one or two of your pockets here, they're a little tight, what you wanna do is just flip the belt over so the opening is up. And you're literally going to take and just pinch. Yeah. And that's just gonna close that pocket a little bit. Shouldn't take much. You shouldn't have to have pliers or going crazy unless your belt is super loose. And if your belt is super loose, find a different belt. That's my recommendation there. Anyways, these load in just like any other 42, 308, MG3 style, whatever. They snap right into the extractor groove. As you can see, just doing a quick shake test, those 4 rounds don't just fall out of the belt. Loading procedure is the same, depending on what kind of gun you have. This is a full auto gun, so obviously your bolt is held to the rear because it's an open bolt machine gun. So when you lay your 7.62 by 39 in your feed tray with your bolt to the rear, you lay it in the feed way, so the belt will load when you pull the trigger. If you're loading a semi-auto gun, you never want to lay it on the middle of the feed tray where it feeds out of, because as soon as you go to charge it, it tries to force the belt over to the next round, and that round physically hits the stop. So there's nowhere for it to go. So that's the semi-auto gun operates from a closed bolt, so that's your main difference there. So like I said, loading procedure is going to depend on what kind of gun you have. This particular feed tray or top cover is the MG3 style with the spring in it here. So it automatically pushes your feed arm to the correct side for a full auto gun. If you got one of these on a semi-auto gun, you're chasing your tail and fighting it. You take that thing out because semi-auto gun operates just the opposite. So if you're trying to load these things like a full auto gun, it's a nightmare. Anyways, so again, these are snap caps. This gun is empty. Confirm. I'll even stick my finger in there. That's a hole. Okay. There's no live ammunition. That's the first time I've fitted this top cover to this gun. So all of this is new. So with these snap caps, they're a little bit used, so it might not be 100%, but we're just going over the basic how-tos here. This procedure you're going to want to do at the range with your muzzle pointed in a safe direction, obviously, because you're using live ammunition. So I've never done this with snap caps, but for demonstrative purposes, it should be fine. So now, obviously, you're going to be standing behind the gun at the range. Everything's ready to rock and roll. You're probably sweating your ass off because it's always hot at the range. You're going to pull the trigger. It's going to do one of two things. It is going to feed and it's going to go bang, and it might continue to go bang as long as you're holding the trigger, depending on what kind of gun you have. Or it's not going to go bang. It's going to jam. So I'm not sure. You just watch me pull the trigger. I haven't opened this thing yet. I'm not sure if that fed 100% or not. We're about to find out. We started with 4, we're down to 1, 2, 3, so I definitely fed it out of the belt. The bolt looks like it closed, so to me, it looks like that round fed right into the chamber, which indicates to me that the feed arm on this top cover doesn't need to be messed with at all, and this gun should continue to operate just fine. If this gets tweaked, then whatever, it's really easy to fix. You just grab and adjust this arm up or down to adjust where that round comes. Like I said, they jump. So it jumps out of the feed tray, and the last thing it touches is that feed arm. So if that feed arm is pushing too hard down on it, your round is going to do this, and it's going to slam into the barrel extension sideways like that. Or if it's not pushing it hard enough, the rounds fall, because like I said, they're jumping out of the tray. So the round will physically fall and get cocked in the other direction. So it's a little bit of guesswork as to which way that will need to go when you're trying to feed. As you can see, we ejected it, so that round fed right in there, no problem, which is awesome. There's nothing sooner to this kit at all, really. The real test is going to be when I take it in there and put it on the range, which we're going to do here in a minute. That'll be the end of this video, just a little shooting test, just to demonstrate this bad boy. This is a brand new 7.62x39 kit, virgin barrel. All we've done is headspaced it. This kit has never been ran. This is the first time it's ever been fitted to this gun. I pulled this gun out of the safe this morning to fit this gentleman's kit and decided to do a video. So here we are. It fed that one just fine. I could show you cycling this thing manually, but that doesn't do anybody any good. So we will load this thing up and take it into the range. We'll get some 7.62x39 live ammo, and we'll continue the video in there. All right, we're on the range. 7.62x39. Herders, non-corrosive, just regular old ball, full metal jackets. This is that same belt that I had earlier. You see a little bit of pressure gets them to snap in. Nothing too serious. You don't want them too tight. You'll figure out real quick if they're too loose because they just fall out. I always leave a few empties at the beginning of my belt. I don't ever use starter tabs. Bolt to the rear, it's a full auto gun. Ammunition directly in the middle of the feedway. Sensor bolts to the rear. Make sure your feed arm is to the correct side. This one's got the spring, so it forces it to the correct side. Let's see if she wants to eat. A little tight after refinish. We did a park job on this guy. Did have a stoppage, let's see what it was. Case didn't quite get out of the way. Stuck between the carry or the bolt head and the charging handle. So we'll hold the bolt to the rear, push that charging handle forward, and that round fell out. It was loading the next one. Go grab a little bit more ammo. We'll shoot just a little bit more, just see. But for out of the box, I mean, that's it's about as good as it gets for out of the box, guys. That's awesome. You can kind of see even this guy's right on that cusp of whatever, depending on your ammo. You can see that one's got a nice bend in it. Let's go grab a few more rounds and see if we can't exit us. There's no camera tricks here. I'm not swapping this ammo for a different caliber. That's clearly 7.62-39. As you saw with that, none of the rounds fell out of the belt. So this belt is perfect for this 7.62-39. Again, this is a standard belt, not using any other belts. We're not trying to modify something to work. It's standard belts. I do have a few of these kits left in stock, not very many. I do have a bunch of barrels, so if you've got one of these kits, now's the time to get a barrel. We have plenty. That's 20. You see how easy they load. It's not a big deal. You don't want them too easy though. .40 rounds, 7.60-39. You can see how short it is in that belt. There's no spacer in the feed tray. We found didn't really need one, so it was extra labor and extra time. So we don't put spacers in them. We did with the early kits that we made some with 8mm feed trays. We had to modify the crap out of those feed trays. The feed way is too wide, so we had to weld all that in and machine it back out. It was 5 years of R&D on these things, so let's see if she runs. I noticed this a minute ago, I didn't say anything. That link right there is a little cockamamie. Hard to see. A little messed up. I think that's what caused that issue right there. It did eject the round, so. Kind of like before, looks like we got started feeding the next round, but the last round just didn't quite make it out. Stuck between the bolt head and the charging handle. Again, I think that's actually ammunition related, not actually gun or conversion kit related. Same thing, round just didn't get kicked out far enough. See those rounds just not quite getting kicked out. Could be recoil spray, you know, it's just dialing it in. But only a few failures in that many rounds. So, I mean, you're going to get that with surplus ammo all day long in 8mm. So not terrible. Again, it could be dialed in. You start messing with the more gas settings up front. So, but for out of the box, just running, it doesn't get much better than that, guys. These kits do work. So if you want one, let us know. At any rate, that was a quick, not quick, hell, this is probably, probably a 45-minute video. They do work though, so you get solid Solid primer strikes. We've never had issues with that. In semi-auto guns, you'll get it a little bit. You got to use the extra power spring here because the hard primers in these steel case 7.62 per 39. But you'll have that issue with the 8mm as well. So at any rate, transferable. This gun's going to be packed up and shipped. So successful test. I hope y'all learned something. If y'all have any questions, just let us know. Again, when it comes to tuning that pressure arm, that feed arm, it's not that difficult to do. So we will gladly, if you ship us your gun, we will gladly tune the kit like we did with this one for free. Most guys opt not to ship their whole gun to us. We just happen to have this one already here. So he said, just keep it and tune it and ship it when it's ready to rock and roll. So this one's ready to go. The successful test. Again, this is one that we rebuilt. This is the one that had the rush seepage. Yep. Okay, so we redid the rails. We refinished it. Yeah. So this isn't the one the nose blew off of, but another transferable. They all blend together. But y'all have a good day. Stay tuned for more cool videos on MG-42 shit.